So we welcome you to the Vodka event, and we welcome you to the first webinar, Introduction to the GraphQL Testing. I'm Pranesh Gaikwad. I'm associated with ThoughtWorks now close to 2 years. And overall, I am having 9 years of experience as a QA.
Hi everyone, Samrat. I'm associated with ThoughtWorks for around 2 years now as well, and my total experience is little above 7 years as QA. Welcome everyone.
So let's start with what is the agenda for this webinar. The agenda is to see what is GraphQL, what we can test as part of GraphQL, which frameworks, tools are available to test GraphQL's different components. Also, we have some sample list of frameworks, and we also have written some sample tests written on some candidate that we have identified. We'll have one live Postman demo followed with a small discussion on the testing strategy. So let's first understand why we need GraphQL. If we have the REST, which is dominated for almost last 2 decades now. So with the surge in the mobile users that we all know, nowadays everyone is having the mobile phone, right? So the issue was with the good user experience and quick fetching of the required data over the sloppy networks and the low power devices. So since not everyone is having high-end phones and good network, so REST isn't optimal deal with this situation. And most of the users preferred browsing of the websites on mobiles rather than laptops or computers. So this leads to having multiple front-end frameworks and the platforms that run on the client that run the client applications. And that gives REST inflexibility to develop a single API to serve all the clients, because we all know in REST we need to hit multiple APIs in order to fetch the required data. The issue of overfetching and underfetching, there is issue with overfetching and underfetching when we are working with the REST. So we'll see exactly what overfetching and underfetching is in the upcoming slides. Now let's see what GraphQL is. So to overcome the issues that we discussed in the previous slide, so Facebook started developing a new way of communication. GraphQL is what is GraphQL? So GraphQL is an API just like REST and SOAP. So here I'm referring to a specification, meaning some predefined set of rules, and user needs to provide the specific implementation of those rules when they are working with the GraphQL. GraphQL comes with a declarative query syntax. That means user can query the exact data that they want. So it works on what you ask is what you get principle, and avoiding the underfetching and overfetching issues that we discussed in the earlier slide. So we'll take a look into what exactly underfetching and overfetching is when we will discuss REST versus the GraphQL to understand more. As we have already discussed that the GraphQL follows the declarative query syntax, the fetching of the data is quite faster as compared to REST, since we will get the exact data only in the GraphQL. So this is the list that GraphQL is being used by Facebook, Netflix, GitHub, and Shopify, and the list is not short. So this is the example of how query and the response looks like in the GraphQL. So if you can see in the left-hand section, we are querying on some movies, their names, genre, actor involved in those movies. And in the right-hand section, if you can see, we got the response for the query that we are asking for. So if you can see, we are getting exactly the same fields that we have asked for in the GraphQL. And this is the endpoint that we are hitting in this case. So this is the another example of query. And now if you can see here, we are fetching only the names of the movies, right? And in the right hand section, if you can see, we are getting the list of movies. And the amazing thing here is we are hitting only single endpoint, right? the endpoint which we hit in the previous example, the same endpoint we are hitting in this example as well. So this is the essence of GraphQL, that all your operations will be hosted on a single endpoint.
Okay, so let's do a comparison between GraphQL and REST. Here are some points to compare GraphQL and REST. Let's go by them one by one. So GraphQL, as Pranesh already said, single endpoint for fetching data. So we in GraphQL we have just one single endpoint. The body keeps on changing, but we have just one single endpoint. However, when we compare to REST, there are multiple endpoints for fetching data. So that's one key difference. Let's come to the second one. That is exact amount of data fetched based on the query over a single call to server. So as you just saw that GraphQL is basically a query based language. So you are in control of what data you are trying to fetch from the server. And you, as the principle already been discussed, it's what you ask is what you get. With REST, it is not always that you'll get all the data required in over a single call to server. So you might have to make multiple calls to get the similar amount of data, which you can get in just one call in GraphQL. Now coming to my third point is GraphQL fetch data using query language. As you just saw, it's pretty obvious. And in REST, it's mostly over the URIs of HTTP. And data is available as a resource. Now, moving on to the fourth point, GraphQL works on schema and easy type deprecation. So what does that mean? GraphQL is basically, since it's a query-based language, it's also driven by mainly schema. Whereas REST works on the API versioning. So you might have, if you're aware with REST, if you worked with it, you know that it's mostly with REST, it's API v1, API v2, so versions like that. But there's no such concept in GraphQL. It's about schema. Now that has an advantage, which leads me to the fifth point, is that the easy type deprecation actually makes the testing easy in GraphQL. We'll see how that happens. But in REST, at the same time, it introduces some amount of complexity, considering there are multiple API versions. Okay. Now coming to the most critical aspect of the most key difference between GraphQL and REST is underfetching and overfetching. Now this dominates a lot in the performance of your applications in a comparative way. So what's underfetching? Underfetching is not having enough data with a call to an endpoint, forcing you to call a second endpoint. So as you're seeing that, let's say I want to we'll see in the further examples as well, that whether let's say I want to fetch a data of a user, all the details related to the user plus some posts that has been, let's say, shared by the user. But I'm in REST, I might not fetch, I might not be able to fetch all the data at just with one single call. So I might have to call two endpoints. So one to, fetch the user details and another to the post. So yeah, that's underfetching. Overfetching is somewhat just the extreme end of it, is that where you hit an endpoint to fetch a certain amount of data, but there you are getting a huge amount of data which you might not require. So that is overfetching. Okay, now let's see, to put things in perspective, let's see it in a diagram. So here, as you can see, I have actually created a GraphQL and a REST, you can say, operation. So here, if you see, this is a GraphQL query. So in this, we are trying to fetch the user details and the posts and the followers of the user. And if you see, this is the query. We are fetching the user by ID. And there is one HTTP post call that's happening to the server from client. And here is my response. So now you can see that the user details are getting fetched, the posts is getting fetched, the followers are getting fetched. However, if we try to do the same thing in REST, we might have to end up making 3 calls. which is this one. First one is where we are fetching the user by ID, which you can see here. This is the first endpoint. The second one here, maybe once we get the user ID, now we fetch the user posts. And the third one is followers. So here we are hitting the third endpoint and fetching the data, which are users followers. So you see right here, we are making 3 HTTP calls, whereas in GraphQL is just one. So it's quite a amount of difference in GraphQL calls. Okay, let me clean this up. Yeah. Okay. So now that we have come across the key differences between the GraphQL and REST, let's deep dive into the core components of the GraphQL.
Right, Samrat. So let's take a look at the very first component, that is schema. So every GraphQL service defines a set of types, that is schema. So which completely describes the set of possible data that one can fetch from a GraphQL server. So when query comes in, let's say any query comes in, so it will be validated and executed against that schema. So we can say that schema is the blueprint of what client can request from a GraphQL server. So it's basically a contract between your client and server. So let's see how we can test the schema. So the schema validation will be the very first step towards the testing GraphQL. We can do some static validation as part of the schema validation, which may include finding some typos or the syntax error within the schema. Also, we can test the schema by using multiple combinations. Also, we can test schema with or without the resolvers. So resolver is the another component of the GraphQL. We'll see in the upcoming slides. As well, we recommend testing schema as part of the unit test cases. And these are some sample frameworks and tools that are available for the schema validation. So we have identified a candidate that is Easy GraphQL Tester, which is a JS library. So we'll see how schema validation tests will look in the Easy GraphQL Tester. So we have created a sample example, if you can see here. So if you can see here, we have used Easy GraphQL Tester to test the schema. And we are reading our sample schema. So the schema or the contract between your client and server from some external file. So here we are fetching, so the schema is talking about some movies, right? Its name, IDs, the actors involved in that movies. Going back to the tests, so we are creating some constant, and we are storing that schema on that constant. So the very first case, test case that we are talking about here, validating a valid schema against my sample schema. So this is a valid schema, and since I'm expecting my test case to pass, since this is a valid schema, we are passing argument true here. The next schema, if you can see, is a combination. As we have already seen in the slide, we can test schema by various combinations. So this is another combination of schema by which you can query on that particular GraphQL server. So this is also a valid query or valid schema, and we expect this test case to pass. Hence, we have passed the argument as true. Moving on to the next test, if you can see here, I have made some spelling mistakes here. So this is not a valid schema. If we are talking about the schema, this is not a valid schema, since there are some typos or the spelling mistakes, as we have seen. It's a part of static validations. So since this is not a valid schema, I'm expecting my test case to fail. So that's why, or I'm expecting this test to fail, since so that's why I have passed argument as false. The another example here is we are querying, or we have passed a schema, and we are searching movies by its ID. So in schema, we have an option to search movie by its ID. So that's what we are doing here. And since this is a valid schema, we are expecting my test case to pass. Hence, we have pass argument true here. The very next example, we are talking about the same thing, fetching movies by any random ID. But here, if you can see, I have made some spelling mistakes. So I'm expecting my this test case to false. So one thing to note here that we are not hitting any external API in this case. We are just validating our test cases on some sample schema that we have. So let's run these test cases and see.
Hey Pranesh, can you increase the font a little bit? I think few people are having issues.
Okay. Reference. Is it better now?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. So should I go over the test cases again?
I think it's fine. We can show the execution.
Okay. Okay. So if you have seen my test cases have passed, and the thing that we should consider here, we have not hit any external URL in or URI in this case. We are just validating our test cases with the schema that we have. Moving on to the slides back. Yeah. So this is the screenshot of the test that we have seen. And the candidate that we use to create this framework is Easy GraphQL Tester. And we read the schema from external GraphQL file. Also, if you have seen, the objective is to codeless and test more. So there is no fancy framework in this case. It's just a one test file and a sample schema file. So the objective of this framework is to code less and test more, and variety of approaches for assertions are available for the validations. Moving on to the next GraphQL component, that is resolver. Resolver, we can say, is a function that generates a response for a GraphQL query. So in simple terms, a resolver acts as a GraphQL query handler, we can say, and its sole purpose is to fetch the data for the query that we have provided. If we have to test a resolver, we recommend to test a resolver as part of unit testing or the as part of. So we can also test resolver along with the schema as well, and we can test that combination as unit testing or the integration testing part as well. We have listed some sample frameworks or tools that are available to test the combination or the resolver and the schema. We have identified a candidate as Intuit Karate to show a sample framework that we have. Yeah. So this is the test case that we have wrote in by using Intuit Karate. Should I increase the font? Sorry for that. Okay. So if you can see here, we are so in this case we are hitting an external API or the external URL, and we have stored that URL in the karate.config.js. So this is a SpaceX example. So this API talks about some dummy SpaceX missions. They are launching sites, rocket information, right? So metadata around some SpaceX missions, right? We are hitting our schema, or in this case, we are hitting or we are using the external API to get our the response for our queries. So if you can see here in the first test case, we have specified a valid schema to hit against my base URL or the GraphQL API that we have just seen in the Karate config. And here, if you can see, we are not validating or we haven't asserted anything. Like if any certain value is present in our response or not. So we are just validating if certain value string or not, if my status is 200 or not, or if my response have any error in it or not. So this is a valid test case, and this test case should pass since this is a valid schema. In the very next test case, we have mentioned a invalid schema since I have made some spelling mistakes here, and we are validating that this should give me a 400 status and there should be some error present in my response. So let's run this test case. So we are hitting an external API in this case. Yeah. So if you have seen these two test cases are passing. So here we have passed our schema into the test case itself. So we have another approach where we can read the schema from external file and we have stored that in some constant. The endpoint is that we are hitting in this example is also same that we have seen earlier. So the schema we are reading from external file, the GraphQL query that we wants to hit against the API. Also we are reading from some external file. And we are just posting this and we are just verifying if this response that we have got is adhering to my schema or not. That's it. We don't have any other assertion in this case. So when we are testing this, when we are testing these two test cases, since we are using the external API, so we are validating the schema as well as we are validating the resolvers. That is the ability of my GraphQL server to respond to my query, right? So as we have seen, the test case is also passing. Now let's move on to the slides. Right. So this is the screenshot for the test case that we have just seen. The candidate that we have identified is in TY Karate. We have seen both of the examples where we have hard coded the schema as well as where we are reading the schema from the external file. Also, the objective of this framework is to code less and test more. So since there is no fancy framework involved, and variety of assertions are also available in this case as well.
Okay, so let's move on to the next core component, which is query. Query, as we all are familiar with, is a statement to fetch data from the server. Now let's talk about query in a deep dive fashion. So query is like a GET request in your REST. If you are comparing GraphQL with REST, then query is like a GET request. So it basically fetches data. Apps using GraphQL are fast and stable because they control the data they get, not the server, and that comes from actually the use of query. Queries can be included as a part of integration tests. This is what we recommend. The objective of the test is, again, what you ask is what you get. Testing query with GraphQL is very easy. We'll see how to do that in our demos. And there are certain frameworks and tools available to test a GraphQL query. That's REST Assured, Postman, GraphQL Tester. And there are pretty much more than that. So we are not limited to it. The next core component is mutation. Mutations, as I suggested, query is a GET request in REST. Mutations are post, put, or delete. So basically what they do is they change the data. They can manipulate the data in the server. Mutations look just like query, but they start with a keyword mutation. That's the only visual difference between mutation and query. The validations can range from property content validations, response SLAs, compliance and security validations. What all these can cover is, let's say in property content validations, we can cover the whether a particular field is coming in the response or not, whether the field contains the expected value or not. So these kind of field level validations can be covered as property content validation. Then in response SLA, we can even validate or verify the response times of the response, the status code and the content headers, or they comply to the particular standard or not. Talking about compliance and security, that's also an important aspect to verify in mutations or even in query for that matter. So they kind of consists of, let's say, whether your some client data or some confidential data is not getting logged as a part of your mutation or your test case. So these are some sort of some amount of validations that you can do in mutations or queries. But of course, the range is not exhaustive. You can play around and do several other kind of validations as well. The list of tools and frameworks are pretty much similar: Rest Assured, Postman, GraphQL, Tester, etc. So as now we are familiar with both query and validate and mutations, now let's move on to a quick demo, which is Postman demo. Okay, let me open up my Postman. That's it. Is my Postman visible?
Yes.
Okay. So as you can see here, if you focus here, I have created a CRUD operation, basically a create, read, update, and delete in the form of GraphQL queries and mutations. The API that I'm using is SpaceX, which Pranesh has displayed earlier. So let's quickly open up one mutation, that's insert. So as you can see, this is mutation. Mutation, as I said earlier, that it starts with the keyword mutation. This is the mutation, you can say name, and this is the signature. So here I'm creating a user in the server with name TW user, rocket name as Falcon, and Twitter handle as TW user underscore handle. So this is the user that I'm creating. Now, one thing quite interesting to note over here is returning. So it's not a mandatory field here, but I've just introduced this here just to explain this very interesting concept in GraphQL, is that it's an insert user, it's add user query, it's an add user mutation. So we are creating a data, we are posting the data on the server, but at the same time we are even eligible, or we are even capable to do a get request from the server in the form of returning. So whatever fields you have mentioned in the returning block, you can get as in the response as a result of this mutation, the execution of this mutation. So the point to note here is that it is doing a post in the server as well as a get in the server, but just with one call. Now let's fire up this endpoint. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the response that I get. The user is created now, and in the returning field, I'm getting the fields that I mentioned. So this is basically the user that has just got created. Now, one thing to be noted here is that whenever there's a record created in the server, the ID, there's an ID that gets created. This ID can be referred in your test cases for, search and look up the data that you have just created. So this is basically add user mutation. You can say insert. Then here it is. It's so now this is a select query by user ID. So I'm fetching the user with the ID which just got created. I'm saving this ID in a global variable. So I'll be referring the same ID going ahead with my queries and mutations. So this is a query. Now, as you can see, this is not very different visually from a mutation, but the mutation keyword is missing here. So there's no mutation keyword. A query you can write just like that. So here this is the name of the query. I'm using a where clause where the ID is equal to the ID that I've just got. These are the fields that I'm mentioning, which my response should return. Okay, let's execute this query. And here we have got the user. We just got created. Now let's move on to the update user part. So update is again a mutation, hence it starts with mutation keyword. Update user is the name where I'm again referring the same ID, and set. So I'm updating this, updating the name here, set name. So the name I'm updating, I'm changing the name. And here, this is one, you can say a sort of response field that you can fetch is affected rows. So how many rows are affected by your mutation, that gets returned. So if I again hit this endpoint and see, so this is the response. The number of rows affected is 1. So obviously, since we created just one user with that unique ID, so it has affected 1 row. We'll again fire this select query and see if my name is actually updated. So yeah, see here the name is updated, whereas earlier it was TW user. Now it is Starlord. Now coming to the delete query, which is the final delete mutation, which is the final mutation. Again, it starts with keyword mutation, delete user, where the ID is this. And again, I can use even returning here. So what data got deleted, that also I can verify. So if I delete the same user, so here it got deleted. And if I do the select again, it will give me an empty list of users. So one thing again to note here is all these CRUD operations are using just this one endpoint. So if you see the endpoint, it's API SpaceX land GraphQL. So if I show you, these are all using the same endpoint. So this is the essence of GraphQL basically. So we can change the query. We can create a mutation. We can create a query. We can select data. We can add, delete data. But this endpoint remains the same. Okay, now and yeah, just to add as well, I have added some basic test cases over here to validate the response code here. So you can add basically all the available test validations. For REST, you can apply the same to GraphQL as well. So here I have added one more test case. Test case is that I am basically validating a field which got deleted. So name I am validating in the returning, and it is equal to Starlord. So I'm validating whether the same updated user got deleted or not. So these kind of test cases you can obviously append with your operations. Now let's move on to the automation aspect of it. I'll be automating this similar or I have automated the similar CRUD operation in rest assured. So we have taken rest assured as a candidate here. Okay, is the code size well enough? Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So here as well, I have created the CRUD operation just like in Postman. So let me select one candidate here, which is the update user test case. So yeah, here I've created one user object with the same kind of fields, name, rocket, and Twitter handle. Here first, so let's move on step by step. Here I am creating first adding a user. So obviously I'm triggering one mutation of insert user. If you can see this, yeah. So this is the insert mutation. It's the same mutation which I just showed you in Postman. So here I'm doing the insert user, and since I'm using REST assured, so I'm using given when then format. And this is the insert query that I'm passing in the body, which I've just defined. And the endpoints remain the same again. And what I'm doing here is I'm saving the ID just as I was saving it in Postman. So I'm saving the ID in user ID. Now let's move on to the test case, the actual test case. So here it is, I have created add user, then I'm updating a user. So here I'm updating again the name. So updated name will be Mandalorian. So here is I have mentioned a mutation of the update user, which again, if you remember, this is the Postman mutation, which you just saw. Now here I have shot this uh, endpoint again and updated the user. And in the third step, I'm using a select query to fetch the user, okay, which I've just updated. So let's quickly trigger this test case and I'll explain what all validations I've added and how this works. Okay, so just got executed. I have actually logged the response of all the three mutations and queries, the operations that I've just executed. So this is your insert user. So here it's the response of the insert user mutation. So here this user got created as we were expecting. In the second step, the update mutation got fired. So again, the response here is affected one rows and with the same ID, by the way, and select user. So this is in the third step, we are doing a select query and validating if the user return is having the updated name or not, and all the rest of the field validations. Now let me just show you what field validations I have introduced. So one validation is the status code, and I have applied this to all my endpoints where I'm hitting them. And then a couple of field validations that I've added is here. Let's say the data user's name, the name I'm validating is it the updated name or not? This is in the select query, mind you. Then the second validation is I'm validating the rocket name, and is the rocket name coming correctly, and the Twitter handle. So these are the some of the field validations that I have just introduced as a part of this test case. Obviously this is a very basic, you can say, test case. You can play around with much more complex responses and much more complex validations as well. Okay. Now let's move on to the next slides. We can skip this. I just explained this. Okay, moving on to the test strategy.
Right. So as we have discussed about at which stage we can test the different GraphQL components. To talk more about the testing strategy, so we all know the famous testing pyramid metaphor, right? Which we are showing in the left of the slide, which talks about covering lots of small and fast unit tests early in the life cycle, and very few at the high level, just to test your end-to-end, just to test your application end-to-end, so that we can catch all the issues or defects early in the life cycle. So there is a new way to look at this while we're testing the GraphQL APIs. It's the testing trophy metaphor, the one which you're looking at the right of this slide. So testing GraphQL fits best in the testing trophy metaphor, because in testing trophy, we write the static checks to identify any typos or syntax error at the lower level. Here we can cover our schema validations, as we have already discussed in the schema validation, that we can check or we do check the schema validation and schema validation or the typo errors, right? And then we have the unit testing part, followed by the integration tests, where we can test our resolvers, our schema along with the resolvers. We can test our queries, or we can test our mutation as well. Again, we recommend best to apply wherever works and with the given scenario and with the fits best to your application.
Hey Samrat, just a quick time check. We have more 5 minutes only.
Yeah. So so to conclude on what we have discussed so far is so GraphQL comes with a certain advantages over REST, like declarative query syntax, where client can declare what they want to fetch from the GraphQL APIs, which makes us faster as compared to REST. So as we have seen, we hit certain queries and we got the response for exactly the fields that we have requested for. So it's client who actually decides what they want to see. Again, we have seen that there is only one endpoint for all the operations, right? We seen in query, we seen in schema, resolver validation, in the mutation example as well. We are hitting against the same endpoint to do all the operations. Against also all the operations are post in case of the GraphQL. There is no get, put, or delete. So GraphQL works on what you ask is what you get principle with its declarative behavior. And there is variety of frameworks and tools that are available to test the different components of the GraphQL. If you are comfortable with JS, you can go for a GraphQL tester, Apollo test, super test, or isomorphic fetch as well. Or if you are comfortable with BDD, you can go ahead with the Karate for that matter. Or even if you can use Postman to validate all the components of the GraphQL. And the testing GraphQL is very easy that we have seen. And most of the frameworks have work on the codeless and test more principle, which is very helpful.
Okay, so that was more on the integration and unit test sides of it, but there are a couple of other testing aspects as well, which we have not covered as a part of this presentation. But yeah, things like performance testing, security testing, things like that, we can explore more and we can add to our testing strategy. Okay, so the references that we have used are GraphQL org, blog test project, GitHub, and testingjavascript.com. So you can go ahead and you can explore these sites on your own. You probably will learn more than what we have shared here as well. Okay, now we are open to questions. Thank you everyone for listening so patiently. And yeah, please go ahead with your questions.
So I can see one question. Can you help me understand why post method is used with the request? So as we have already discussed in GraphQL, everything works as a post. So this is the architecture of the GraphQL. We do not have get, right? So we cannot compare on that perspective with the rest. Like we have post, get, or delete in the rest. So everything works with the post when we are working with the GraphQL.
Okay. Can you please maybe help in understanding what resolver means once again?
Sure. So resolver is something when you are hitting, so let's say when you are hitting with any query, right? So the ability of your GraphQL API to respond to your query. So we wrote some functions to respond to your query when you create a GraphQL server. So the resolver in that GraphQL server is one which will respond to your query on behalf of your GraphQL server. So resolver's functionality is to respond to the query that client is asking for.
Right. And I would just like to add one more point here is resolver again plays a very important role in one more aspect of GraphQL. That is GraphQL is there's one advantage of GraphQL, that is it can work in a hybrid model as well. It can work with the existing legacy database as well as a GraphQL database as well as a REST not database, sorry, server. So the resolver actually decides on when a query is getting hit, the resolver as well decides that from which server am I going to fetch the data, and resolve the complexities, inner complexities of, you can even say, typecasting or converting the data from different sources. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is one more question: how to test a service that fetches external API instead of our own DB via GraphQL? So if this question means how to test external APIs via GraphQL, right? If I'm not wrong. So in this case, what we can do, so there is GraphQL. So we just need to have a schema, and that schema you can see on the GraphQL website. You will get a route query from there, and the schema is nothing but, as we have already discussed, schema is blueprint of what you can query on any GraphQL server. So from schema, any user or any client can see what you can expect from your GraphQL server and which kind of data that you can expect from your GraphQL server. Yeah, how to decide whether to go with REST or GraphQL. As Samrat already said, the GraphQL is not alternative to the REST, right? REST and GraphQL can both go hand to hand, and so the Facebook designed GraphQL just to enhance the user experience, since not everyone is having 4G or broadband connections, right? So in that case, how they will use the websites, or how they will navigate through the internet. So for the GraphQL purpose is to serve the clients which are using low powered device or the sloppy networks. So REST and GraphQL both can go hand in hand in a single application.
Hi Pranesh, so there is another question
Mhm.
which says, can we perform contract testing using GraphQL?
Right. So if you have seen the schema validations, right, that we have done. So in schema validation, we are doing nothing but a kind of contract testing where we are finding all the typos. So let's say if there is some spelling mistakes, right, or there is one field missing. So if even field missing is okay. So let's say if there are some typos or syntax error that we can caught at the very beginning of our life cycle. So we can say schema validation is type of contract testing.
Understood. So there is another question which says, what is post, get, delete, etc. equivalent in GraphQL?
Yeah, so we already discussed that there is only post call that happens in the GraphQL. There are no get, put, or delete calls.
Yeah, and to answer that in the context of GraphQL, so if you are comparing that with REST, so get equivalent is your query. When we say query in GraphQL, that's a get request. Query always fetches data in GraphQL, and the post, put, delete is mutation. So there's just one component, that's mutation. You can post, put, or delete data, as we just saw in the Postman demo.
Yeah, and there is another last question for us. So it says, how the insert query will be when request body is form data or file?
Sorry, in the
so how the insert query will be when request form is in the form of data or file?
Okay, so okay, I have added one example of that. If you see, okay, just give me a moment. I can, yeah. So add user is here. Yeah. So I have not included a insert query per se, but yeah, I have added a select user query. I'll be able to explain that example with this. So here, if you see in this particular code, the query that I am actually taking, I have taken add user query only. So I have taken that in a file. Here I have mentioned that in a file. Let me just show you the file here. This is the add user query. So I add user mutation rather. So this is the mutation that's mentioned over here. If you see, these are the data which I'm passing. You can use any parsing API for this. I have used Lombok, and you can use any other parsing API with this. So here I have created one user object. If you see, which I used in my example as well, if these name, Rocket, and Twitter, these all fields are mapped basically to this query or this mutation rather. So here I'm passing these fields, and the rest goes just the same way, where I have converted it to a string and I have added in my body of the query, and I'm just hitting this query here. So yeah, hope that answers.
There is one more question: how authentication APIs tested works in GraphQL. So it's just like REST, how we test the authentication API in REST. So the same applies to GraphQL as well. So in this case, we have used the sample APIs which are openly available on the internet. So we can also pass headers when we are working with the GraphQL APIs. So it's just like REST. We can pass headers, right? And I guess this should have answered the question.
Just one call out. People, please post your questions on the Q&A section.